The shadow in the Haveli. The Haveli stood like a forgotten relic in the heart of Old Delhi, its once grand arches now chipped, its jelly screens cloaked in dust. Aisha stood before it, her dupatta slipping from her shoulder as she clutched the rusted iron key. At 32, widowed for 3 years, she had returned to her late husband's ancestral home to sell it, to sever ties with a past that weighed on her like the monsoon clouds gathering over Chandni Chowk. The air smelled of roasted corn and distant rain. The cacophony of rickshaws and street vendors, a stark contrast to the silence within the Haveli's crumbling walls. Aisha had no love for this place. It belonged to her husband, Farhan, a man whose warmth had faded long before his death. The Haveli was a burden, its upkeep draining the savings she needed to start anew. She planned to clean it, list it, and leave Delhi behind for a quieter life in Dehradun. But the task was daunting. Decades of neglect had left the rooms choked with cobwebs and memories. She needed help. She remembered Noor, a wiry 19-year-old from the nearby gully who cleaned houses to fund her studies and Jamia Millia. Noor was quick with a smile, her hands deft and her chatter full of dreams. Aisha called her, and Noor arrived the next morning, her scarf tied tightly, a bucket and broom in hand. "Baji, this place is like a museum," Noor exclaimed, her eyes wide at the faded frescoes on the courtyard walls. Aisha laughed, but her heart was heavy. "Just help me make it presentable, Noor. We'll start with the ground floor." For 2 days they worked tirelessly, scrubbing floors, polishing the old teak furniture, and sorting through Farhan's belongings, books, clothes, and papers yellowed with age. The Haveli began to breathe again, its carved wooden doors gleaming under the sunlight that slipped through the jharokas. But the attic remained untouched, a locked door at the end of the second-floor corridor that Aisha avoided. Farhan had forbidden anyone to enter it, claiming it only held junk. She hadn't questioned him then, but now, with him gone, the locked door felt like a challenge. On the third day, Noor ventured upstairs to clean the corridor. Aisha was in the courtyard, sorting old linens, when she heard a scream. She dropped the bedsheet and ran, her heart pounding. Noor stood at the top of the stairs, her face pale, clutching her broom like a shield. "Baji, there's someone up here," she whispered, her voice trembling. "What do you mean? We're alone," Aisha said, climbing the stairs. Her voice was steady, but her pulse quickened. "I was sweeping near the attic door," Noor stammered. "I saw her, a woman in a faded shalwar kameez, sitting on a loom weaving. Her hair was long, messy, like she hadn't combed it in years. She looked at me, then vanished into the wall." Aisha's breath caught. "Noor, it's an old house. The light plays tricks. Maybe it was a shadow." But her words felt hollow. The Haveli's dark corners had always unnerved her, as if they held secrets Farhan never shared. "I swear, Baji, she was real." Noor's eyes were wide with fear. "I won't go near that door again." Aisha calmed Noor, sending her to clean the kitchen instead. But the girl's words lingered, stirring an unease Aisha couldn't shake. That night, unable to sleep, she lay in the guest room, the Haveli's creaks and groans louder than ever. She thought of Farhan's stern warnings about the attic, his insistence that it was nothing important. Why had he been so secretive? The next morning, Aisha stood before the attic door, the key heavy in her hand. It was rusted, but it turned with a reluctant groan. The door creaked open, releasing a gust of stale air that smelled of old paper and damp wood. She flicked on her phone's flashlight, revealing a narrow staircase to a cavernous attic. Dust motes danced in the beam as she climbed, her heart thudding. The attic was a maze of crates, broken furniture, and cobwebs. In the far corner, a wooden loom stood, its threads tangled as if abandoned mid-weave. Beside it was a small table with a stack of notebooks, their pages brittle and yellowed. Aisha's fingers trembled as she opened one. The handwriting was elegant, unmistakably feminine, filled with Urdu poetry, ghazals of love, loss, and longing. The verses spoke of a caged bird, a heart silenced, a life stolen. Aisha's breath hitched. The signature at the bottom read, Safia Begum. Safia was Farhan's mother, who had died when he was a teenager. Aisha had heard little about her, only that she was a quiet woman who kept to herself. Farhan's father, a dominating man, had overshadowed her memory. But these poems were alive, raw, their words cutting into Aisha's heart. Why had Farhan hidden them? And why did Noor claim to see a woman weaving? That evening, Aisha sat in the courtyard, the notebooks spread before her. Each one was a treasure filled with Safia's poetry, some published under Farhan's name in his early collections, which had launched his career as a poet before he turned to business. Aisha's stomach churned. Had Farhan stolen his mother's work, passing it off as his own? The thought was a betrayal, not just of Safia, but of Aisha's trust in him. She called Noor, who arrived hesitantly, still shaken. "Noor, tell me exactly what you saw," Aisha said, her voice firm. She was thin, Baji, with long hair. She sat at the loom, moving her hands like she was weaving, but the threads didn't move. Her eyes, they were so sad, like she was trapped. Aisha's mind raced. Was it Safia's spirit, lingering in the Haveli, demanding her voice be heard? She didn't believe in ghosts, but the Haveli's weight pressed on her, its shadows whispering secrets. She decided to dig deeper. She contacted Farhan's cousin, Bilal, who lived in Karol Bagh and had known Safia well. Bilal arrived the next day, his face lined with age but kind. Over chai in the courtyard, Aisha showed him the notebooks. His eyes widened, then filled with tears. "These are Ammi's," he whispered. Safia Chachi was a poet, a genius. She wrote in secret because uncle wouldn't allow it. He said poetry was a waste, that her duty was to the family. When she died, Farhan took her notebooks. I thought they were lost. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" Aisha asked, her voice sharp with anger. Farhan was like his father, controlling, he sighed. He said he'd honor her by publishing her work, but he used her poems as his own. I was young, powerless. I left Delhi to escape the family's shadow. Aisha's hands clenched. Farhan had built his reputation on his mother's stolen words, locking her legacy in the attic like a shameful secret. But what about Noor's vision? Bilal frowned when she mentioned it. This Haveri is old, Aisha. It holds memories, maybe more. Safia spent her last years up there, writing in secret. Her spirit might still linger. That night, Aisha couldn't sleep. The Haveli seemed alive, its walls creaking, the loom's faint clatter echoing in her mind. She climbed to the attic again, the flashlight trembling in her hand. The attic was still, but the air felt heavy, as if someone watched her. "Safia," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I'll tell your story, I promise." She spent days reading Safia's notebooks, each poem a window into a woman trapped by duty, her voice silenced by a patriarchal world. One entry chilled Aisha. "She burnt my words once, but I hide them now. The loom is my refuge, its threads my voice. If I die, let my poetry live." Aisha wept, imagining Safia weaving in secret, her dreams woven into threads no one saw. Strange occurrences began. At night, the loom's clatter filled the Haveli, though no one touched it. Aisha found fresh ink stains on the attic table, though the pens were decades old. Noor refused to return, whispering about the woman in the shadows. Aisha felt Safia's presence, not malevolent, but pleading, urging her to act. She decided to publish Safia's poetry under her true name. She contacted a small press in Delhi known for reviving forgotten voices. The editor, a woman named Meera, was moved by the poems. "These are extraordinary," Meera said. "We'll publish them, but it'll stir controversy. Farhan's legacy will be questioned." "Let it," Aisha replied, her voice steel. "He stole her life. I won't let him steal her voice too." As she prepared the manuscript, Aisha uncovered more. A hidden letter in the last notebook revealed Safia's final days. She had confronted Farhan's father about her poetry, only to be locked in the attic for defiance. She died soon after, her heart weakened by years of suppression. Farhan, then a teenager, had found her body and her notebooks, choosing to bury her truth rather than honor it. The Haveli grew restless. One night, Aisha woke to the sound of shattered glass. She ran to the courtyard where a mirror lay broken, its shards reflecting the moonlight. In the fragments, she swore she saw Safia's face, gaunt, sad, but free. Aisha's resolve hardened. She wouldn't let fear stop her. The book, Threads of a Silenced Heart, was published 6 months later. Aisha included a foreword detailing Safia's life and Farhan's betrayal. The launch was held in a small bookstore in Haus Khas, the air thick with incense and anticipation. Readers wept as Aisha read Safia's ghazals, their words soaring like birds released from a cage. The book became a sensation. Its raw honesty resonated across India. Farhan's name, once revered, was now tainted. His collections reissued under Safia's name. The Haveli changed too. Aisha decided not to sell it. Instead, she turned it into a library for women writers, its attic now a bright space with open windows, the loom a centerpiece for workshops. The clattering stopped, the shadows lifted. Safia's spirit, if it had lingered, seemed at peace. One evening, as Aisha sat in the courtyard, a breeze carried the scent of jasmine. She opened Safia's final notebook, reading a line. "My words are threads woven in darkness, waiting for light." Aisha smiled, tears falling. "You're free now, Safia."